Today is February 17th, 2026. It's 38 years since my dad died, suddenly and tragically. February 17th, 1978. Brain hemorrhage. He was coaching my brother's soccer team at the time, indoor soccer at Cassandra Public School. His assistant coach, Tommy Molesdale, was there. I believe Keith Mingham. Tommy's sons, Ray Molesdale and Barry Molesdale, were there as well. Now, my brother was supposed to be there, but he had a birthday party to go to that night. And because he had a birthday party to go to that night, my dad didn't want to come all the way back to Unionville, where we recently moved to bring me back to North York for the soccer practice. My dad worked at Crane and Boak, an architecture firm. So my brother and I were spared the trauma of seeing my dad collapse on the gym floor. Tommy at the time thought he was joking, as my dad was a joker. My dad was a free spirit, fun, outgoing, smart, loving, lovable. I don't really know anybody that really has a bad word to say about him. So my last time, or the last time I saw my dad, he waved to me at the bus stop right at Village Parkway in Carleton on his way to work. My brother and I were at the bus stop, and he waved, and we waved back, and he was in his gaudy brown what kind of cars do you call them? They were a brown station wagon, but it had like brown siding panel on it. So that was the last time I saw my dad. And then we went off to school, my brother and I. I believe I was in perhaps grade 5 or 6. My brother would have been 3 years younger, so grade 1 or 2. I believe my mom went to work that day, but it's weird. I don't have much of a recollection of her in the morning. She didn't have her license at the time, so I'm pretty sure my dad drove her to work. She worked at an ad agency. She was an ad agency executive, from what I know. So that night, because we didn't go, my brother went to his birthday party, and my mom and I. So see, this is where things get foggy, because I didn't think my mom had her license at the time, and yet somehow, some way, we got Mr. Subs. I got a pizza sub. I hate pizza subs now, but I had one then. Friday night, February 17th, 1978. And then things got foggy there for a sec. I remember eating the pizza sub. Then there was times where I don't remember. And then I remember play fighting with my brother. He must have come back from the birthday party, and we were play fighting upstairs in our bedroom. We had 3 bedrooms. My parents were in one. Then for some reason, my brother and I shared a bedroom, and then we had an extra bedroom, and that was for the TV room, or it was called the TV room. Then we had a living room, and we had a basement that went unused. So I don't know if we were making the most of our space. But, so we were pillow fighting and waiting for my dad to come home. We loved our dad. And instead of my dad coming home, I don't remember hearing the knock at the door, but my mom opened our bedroom door and looked terrified. And Keith Mingham was there, and they said, pack your stuff, we have to go, we have to bring you to the Vines house, friends of ours, as your dad's been in an accident. And their faces looked like it was filled with fear and panic. I remember that. And I said, accident, like did he break his leg or something? Because that's what I thought an accident was, a car accident. An accident, you break things. And Keith Mingham, I think he subsequently passed away, but he said, yeah, something like that. But I could tell it was something different. So Dom and I, my brother and I, got our stuff ready, went over to the Vines house, and my mom and Keith Mingham drove down to North York General Hospital. My dad was in North York General Hospital. And while at the Vines, perhaps we didn't know exactly how bad it was, and so we started playing ball hockey downstairs. I think it was Steve, myself, Tammy, Steve's sister. And we were playing, having fun. And then I heard the phone ring. And so I stopped because I was still curious as to what was going on with my dad. And I kind of snuck upstairs quietly, and I heard Jerry Vine on the phone. And he was a quiet man, and he subsequently passed away as well. And he said, the only thing I heard was, no. And at that point, as a 10-year-old, something hit me, and I thought, my dad's dead. So when Jerry got off the phone, I asked him, have you heard anything from my dad, about my dad? And he said, no, I haven't heard anything yet. And that was a fair enough answer from Jerry in my mind now, because if he knew, it certainly wasn't up to him to tell myself and my brother. So I had an inkling that my dad had passed away. The rest of the night was, my mind was racing, but trying to occupy it, still playing ball hockey. And then it was time for bed. Still hadn't talked to my mom. And we tried to go to sleep. We were upstairs in one room. Nora Vine, Jerry's wife, now had come home. And she sadly has subsequently passed away as well. I mean, we're all getting older. And everybody seemed a little off. And then we turned off the lights, tried to go to bed. And I remember Staying Alive coming on. Oh, staying alive. And it was the Bee Gees, and I couldn't sleep. And that song just stuck in my head, and I obviously equated it to my dad. The next morning we got up. I remember eating toasted Western sandwiches downstairs, and then still hadn't talked to my mom or my dad. And then Nora Vine said, okay, get ready. We're going to go over to your Auntie Marion and Uncle Mac Max house, and they lived just a block away in a different complex than us. And that was it. So we got ready. We jumped in her Mustang. She had a Mustang, silver Mustang car. And she was uncharacteristically quiet on the drive. And I'm sure I had this inkling as to what happened, but not really. I was hoping. I prayed back then, so I prayed that my dad would be okay. And we got to Auntie Marion and Uncle Mac's house, and it was the corner house. And we walked up to the door, and my cousin Mike, he was a couple years older than me at the time, only recently told me of that story. And as we were coming up to the house, he said he looked at us from the upstairs bathroom window, and he felt terrible because he knew our lives were going to change forever at that point. So we walked up to the door, we rang the doorbell, the door opened, we walked in. And I saw my mom sitting in the blue reclining chair in the living room. And she looked like she'd been bawling. And she had a blue and white house coat on. And then we saw Auntie Marion, Uncle Mac, and the kids were all around. It was all in this living room area. And I looked at Auntie Marion, and I started crying. I asked where my dad was. And she looked at me and said, "Your dad didn't make it." "I'm sorry, Chris." And I'm not sure if this is true, but from what I remember, or think I remember, or misremember, is that I ran to my mom and just hugged her tight. And I forget where my brother was at that time. He was there with me, but I'm not sure exactly where he was. And then I don't remember the rest of that day. I remember my mom staying up in Auntie Marion's and Uncle Mac's, one of the bedrooms upstairs. And I think there was like a week that went by that we stayed there. There was a viewing of my dad. I'm not sure if it was an open casket or not, because my family decided that it wasn't good for me to go. And I begged and begged and begged and kicked and screamed, but they thought it wasn't good for me or dumb. So we stayed home. And then things got blurry again. And then there was the funeral. I know there was lots of people calling and seeing my mom so sad. He was 36. And then after a week, I believe we had the funeral, and I don't remember much about the funeral. My brother and I wore the same light blue, dark blue kind of windbreaker jackets, and we were close to the front. I remember seeing my whole school there from John 23rd. I thought I was bawling. My best friend Rob said that he was mad at me when he saw me because I was joking around and laughing. Obviously, I don't remember that. And if I was, obviously it was to hide the pain. There were so many tears. My dad was loved by so many people. It's at St. Patrick's Church in Markham. We had to walk down the middle, and I didn't want to see anybody. And then we went in this procession type thing to Holy Cross Cemetery to bury my dad. And we were going through red lights. We were in limousine type things, and sort of the last time that we'd ever be that close to my dad ever again. And I didn't know at the time how much of a loss that he is or was to my mom, my brother, myself, his brothers, his mom. But he was, and it wasn't fair. So we went to Holy Cross Cemetery, and again, kind of blurry, a lot of people around, a lot of screaming, a lot of crying, a lot of hugging. And then he was buried. And then everybody left and went back. I don't know if we went back to Auntie Mary and Uncle Mac's house, or Giorgio Realini, his architect friend, or Terry Fitzialis, or George Gibbs. Or we might have just gone back to our house, but we went back, and it was a celebration, as much of a celebration as one can have at that time. And then things moved on as life moves on. I think we took a week off of school, and people tried to explain what exactly happened, and obviously it was almost unexplainable to a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. But Then we ended up going back to school, and that was weird for me. Everybody kind of treated us differently. They were only doing it to help and to try and help us. But it felt weird. But everybody was so great. John 23rd was amazing, as was Unionville and the Don Mills Soccer Association and Unionville Jets hockey. Everybody was so helpful and kind. I don't know where that's gone. I don't know why we have to live in a society like now. Where's love? And so again, people treated us amazingly and helped us. They really helped us, and our sports helped us. And then a month after that, my Nana passed away. She had diabetes. And more grief. I don't remember that funeral at all. But she lived with us. But her last year, she was in a home at Kennedy and Lawrence. And the skeleton of a person, the way compared to what she used to be, which was big and full of life and energy. And then a month after that, my brother and I came home one day after school, and we saw an ambulance at our house. And we ran inside and upstairs. My mom was locked in the bathroom. She'd collapsed. What we believed was an accidental overdose. And one of her best friends at the time, Annie Dermasha, was there helping her. They didn't want us to see her. And the ambulance took her away. We went to the Dermasha's house, Annie and Johnny and Pete. And we stayed there and waited for some news. My mom survived, thankfully. She had to stay away from us for a month to recover, and she was going through her own pain. And we stayed at the Dermashas for a month. And our whole lives were turned upside down 2 or 3 months. I miss my dad. Sadly, I've forgotten a lot about him. Time heals. And it feels so bad for my mom. And for me, not quite sure if I ever, I'm not quite sure if I ever healed from the trauma. Despite trying, and doing everything I could. 40 years of psychotherapy. Well, the sad part now is that most of the friends that he grew up with and was around and had fun with, worked with, played soccer with, partied with, they're all passing away now too. And that's life. So much love to my mom, my brother, and everybody that helped our family attempt to heal. We all really appreciate it. We all really appreciated it, and we appreciate you. And still wish there was more love in this world.